I know that you're tired, okay, but you can't give up. These pants will give you a miracle. You have to believe.
Jimmy, the pants have already worked their magic on me. They brought me to you.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Hollywood Gold. I'm your host, Daniela Taplin-Lundberg, and I'm here with my right-hand woman, Becca Camerata. How are you, Bex?
I'm great, Daniela. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited to jump into today's episode with our great friend and sister, Debra Martin Chase, who produced one of the great early aught films, Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. Bex, this is a favorite of yours, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's such a classic in my generation. I read the book when it came out, was a huge fan, was eagerly awaiting the movie, and, went to see it with my friends the day it opened. And it was just one of those movies that kind of spoke to a generation of young, awkward women trying to find their place in the world and feeling like, oh, maybe if I just have a magic pair of pants, that'll solve everything. And you just, gave you a sense of belonging. So I love Deb and I love this movie. So I'm very excited for this episode.
I'm so excited. And she was coming off of Princess Diaries, and I think Warner Brothers called her because they knew that she could handle young women and stories like this. So I'm so excited to get going and hear the behind the scenes. And America Ferrera is having this huge resurgence and was just nominated for an Oscar. So I'm excited to hear about all that gaggle of girls getting together and becoming friends. To this day, I think they just they all Zoomed her when she got nominated. So let's get going.
Let's do it.
Debra Martin Chase, my sister. We've been on this pod before. You helped me launch this thing with Princess Diaries. You believed. And
now it's a big hit.
And now it's a big hit, and you're back.
Yeah.
I convinced you to come back. So today we're going to talk about another one of your big hits, which is Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, which I just rewatched and is just, I was telling you before, it just is a warm blanket of a film. It's so lovely and fun and engaging, and the performances are so good. It's funny, I was on JetBlue this weekend, and there's a whole section now called comfort films. A few of your films are on that page. And I think that just means the films you'll watch over and over and over again and just love them forever till the end of the time. And so you've made a couple of those. So let's talk about Sisterhood, because I was sort of doing my homework and you were partnered with Alcon and Denise, but talk about how you found the book. Go from the very beginning.
So Kevin McCormick, who'd been a longtime friend, the senior executive at Warner Brothers, called me and he said, I have this book that's out, that's doing well, that I'm interested in optioning, and I think it might be of interest to you. And it was Sister of the Traveling Pants, which I'd not heard of. And I said, great. And I read it that night and loved it and called him back. And I said, yes, I'm in. Let's do this.
Love it.
Then again, Kevin said, as we were talking about writers, he said, I'm really good friends with Delia Ephron, Nora's sister, and Delia and Nora wrote most of.
Remind us some of the movies that they wrote together. Like you've got, Mail,
you've got
maybe?
Mail, and it's so funny. It was pre-Zoom, so it wasn't like we could have a Zoom meeting because Delia lives in New York. But I must have talked on the phone and realized that we, very much kind of saw the material the same way.
What was that sort of defining narrative thread? Like, how did you see it? How did she see it?
A full emotional meal. That's how I always talked about it.
Love it.
Right?
Love that.
So that you laugh, you cry,
yes,
you hurt, you're joyous, romance,
yes,
death.
Yes.
I mean, it really had everything. And also with the four girls were so well drawn, so distinctive, that everybody had somebody to identify with. And I think that's important when you do an ensemble. So these were the old days. So Warner Brothers flew Delia out, put her up in a suite at the Beverly Wilshire
Oh my
for
God.
like
Tell me more.
a week or more. And we kind of moved in and we hammered out the movie.
Oh my God. So you were really ground up and you're like in there just beating it out with Delia.
Totally. One of the most fabulous creative collaborations of my career.
Oh.
We are still good friends to this day.
I love it.
Just based on, we just fell in love with each other.
Yeah.
And we beat out the movie. And then she went home to write. And
Did you have to pitch them? Like, were they already?
No.
They already just like we're in?
Kevin was already buying the book, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. This was one of those rare situations.
Got it. It's like we're making this.
Or, we're buying it, certainly.
Yeah.
And want you to come on board.
Okay.
And then, again, miraculously, her first draft comes in and it's great.
Oh God.
And so all of a sudden we have like a blinking green light.
Oh my God.
We're like, oh, yeah, this is like, this is a movie, we want to make. And I guess another thing along the way, while we met with Ann Brashares, who wrote the book, who was just divine.
Okay.
I mean, Ann was like beautiful, went to Barnard, had like 4 or 5 kids.
Uh-huh.
Her husband was like an artist.
Oh God.
Leslie Morgenstein, who was the head of the company that was a predecessor to Alloy Entertainment.
Okay.
His business model was he would come up with the idea for the book and then he would contract with writers.
Oh.
And they would write the books.
Oh.
That's how they came. And so Gossip Girl and
No.
yeah,
way.
and it was a hugely successful book company that he sold to Alloy. Okay, but at the time it was
Okay.
and he had gone to college or maybe even grown up with Ann.
Okay.
So he had hired Ann, who at the time was like, a mom with all these kids and whatever.
Okay.
And she just wrote this awesome book.
Based on sort of Leslie's concept.
Yeah.
How funny. Okay.
I'm
Yeah. Or someone who worked for him. Like,
it was like just they had a germ of an idea,
Yeah,
and then
okay.
she took it and made it great.
Yeah.
And so by this time the book is out and it's doing well. So it was building a following, which also was helpful. So yeah, off the first draft, we had like this blinking green light, and we started talking about directors.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also it's a girl movie, and so you had people who either wanted to make it too soft because they didn't really because the movie needed to have grit in order to really be universally accessible. I always remember we talked to Helen Hunt. It was building her directing career.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
As a director. Ken Kwapis came in. Ken had won the Student Academy Award in grad school.
Okay.
He had made a few movies, but his last movie had not done well. So he was in a bit of movie jail. The loveliest, just lovely, lovely, lovely man. I did, it's one of those things where I didn't really expect. I think his agent must have called me and pitched him, and I was like, okay, we're talking to everybody. He came in and he talked about how American Graffiti was the defining movie of his life.
Wow.
Had, just as a person, as a man, and had inspired him to be a filmmaker. And he talked about the ways in which Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants could parallel American Graffiti. And I was like,
you're
okay,
sold. Yeah.
he's in my head.
Yeah.
He gets this movie.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Oh my God.
Right?
And that elevates it in such a way.
Oh my God.
Like,
Yeah.
I love that comparison. That's so
Right.
cool. Mm-hmm.
Then I think that's around that time, Denise had a long-standing deal with Warner Brothers, and there was a movie that had gotten very close to getting made, and they pulled the plug on it, and they kind of had her join as a consolation.
Denise Denovi.
Denise Denovi.
Okay.
But then right after that, Alcon had this big deal at Warner Brothers. And the Alcon guys are still, I just adore them, Andrew Kosov and Broderick Johnson, had very famously, coming out of Princeton, wrote a business plan, like a 200-page business plan about, building this company where they would finance the movies, own them, create a library and an asset, and partner with a major studio.
Okay.
And they had sent it to Fred Smith.
Okay.
He was the CEO of Federal Express.
Okay. Yes.
And Fred said yes. And they'd ended up at Warner Brothers, and that's where they're. So
it had raised hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
Like it was a big fund.
It was a big fund. And it was a big deal because people weren't really doing that.
Yeah.
They were like ahead of the time. And they'd had a couple of smaller movies at that point. I Can't Buy Me Love. And that's something else. Oh, My Dog Skip. My Dog Skip at that point was their big hit.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But anyhow, and so they were looking for other movies, and Andrew's wife, Kira, had read Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, loved it, and so they went to Kevin and said, we would love to come in on this, to take this over.
Cool.
So I didn't know them at the time. I'm like, okay, I don't know about this Alcon thing. I'm at big Warner Brothers.
Right.
I know
You
they
just
have
want the
money.
studio to do it. Yeah.
It's like, I know they have money.
Yeah.
They can get it made. But they gave it to them. So all of a sudden, I'm in this whole other,
So you've got all sorts of partners all of a sudden.
Partners that I don't know.
Yes. Oh, gosh. Okay.
But, they're like, look, we need the movie. We're going to make the movie. And we started putting the movie together.
Okay.
We did bring on Elizabeth Chandler to do a draft.
Pass. Okay.
But it was always, Delia got the green light. Delia draft is what, everybody bought into.
Happen.
And then Elizabeth did a great job of elevating. It was one of those situations where you really had two writers who completely complemented each other and really passed the baton in the best kind of way. But casting, we always knew was going to be critical because by this time, the book is a big hit internationally. It was like the #1 book in France. I mean, it was like crazy.
Oh, my God. Okay.
And the fan base was very, very, very seriously attached. And so when you're adapting a book like that, casting is key, right?
Yeah.
So America was the first one we cast. And she had done Real Women Have Curves for HBO, but she was still very much a newbie. I remember going to see her some community play in Hollywood at some little, theater off Hollywood Boulevard. I think it's where I met her, actually. But anyhow, going to see her there.
Local theater. Real
local.
Yeah.
Not, like real local.
Like a high school production almost, but not
a step
quite.
above.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And, we didn't have, but we were going to cast Misha Barton in the Blake Lively role.
Oh, really?
And we had Kristen Krug. Remember Kristen Krug, who was in Smallville? She was, I think, Alexis's role.
Oh, wow.
And we were auditioning for the third role. And we were going to shoot that summer. And we were like really into the soft prep. On the other side of this, so my deal is at Disney. And Disney, after, I guess it was Cadet Kelly.
Okay.
And Lizzie McGuire
had done
show, wanted to do a 3-picture deal with Hilary Duff. And since I was like the girl producer, having done Princess Diaries, I had like 2 of those movies, that were earmarked for me.
Wow.
One was another Meg Cabot book, and then the other one we were going to do something else. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do all of this. I don't know how, because I'm very hands-on like you.
You show up every day.
I show up. We show up.
Yeah,
you and I,
yeah.
And I was like, how am I going to do 2 movies at once in different parts of the world? I mean, I was like freaking out. So over the weekend, Hillary was attached to a spec script called A Cinderella Story. And it had a ticking clock on it because it was very competitive, and it like they had to make the movie within 6 months or something as part of the deal.
Okay.
So Friday, I go home and I have 2 Hilary Duff movies coming up and Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and I'm freaked out. Monday morning, Warner Brothers has bought the script
To Cinderella Story?
And they didn't even bring it to Disney because they were, I don't know, whoever the agents were like, we want to, spread the wealth. We don't want Disney to have everything. So Dick Cook, who at the time was the CEO, is apoplectic.
Oh my God.
That he has been embarrassed, that they didn't even submit it to Disney. And he's in the middle of negotiating this huge deal with her.
No.
And he's like, it's off.
No.
I'm not doing the deal.
No.
Yes. So
I'm loving this.
So I have no Hilary Duff movies and Warner Brothers is like, well, we don't want to have too many girl movies at one time.
No.
So we have to make the Cinderella Story movie this summer. So we need to wait a year for Sisterhood and the Traveling Pants.
No.
Yes. Yes. So I'm telling you, I've gone from literally over a weekend. I'm just like, screwed.
Oh my God.
Come over here and look at yourself. They look amazing on you.
Call me crazy, but it's scientifically impossible that a pair of pants could fit me.
And me.
And me.
And me.
We were 16 and had never been apart. And all that was about to change.
How about this one?
I mean, I can even see it right now.
Yeah.
I'm in my car. I get the call.
Oh, my
I'm like,
God.
what the hell? Right. So I'm depressed.
Yes.
And bless their heart, Andrew Kosov and Broderick said, we are making this movie. So we need to look at this as a slow roll on production. So this will give us more time because we had more work to do on the script.
Okay.
It was a big little movie because of the grease.
There's so many locations.
Obviously, Santorini.
Yeah.
We were in Baja, Mexico. We were in
my
Cabo
God.
and Vancouver. And so it gave us time to properly scout.
Yeah.
And then also, how these things go, those actresses, other than America, were not really available.
Uh-huh.
Because they both had shows. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the OC was still happening.
Right.
Christian was still on Smallville. So we started all over. And we saw everybody.
Every
who was
girl.
possibly.
Tell me. Do you remember any?
I mean, Kaylee Cuoco, Alexis Vega.
I read Olivia Wilde came in. Do you remember that, Adele?
Oh, not just came in. She was in the short list.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So America stayed, brought her with us. At that point, Amber Tamblyn was on Joan of Arcadia. And so she was a big deal because we wanted real actors. They had to fulfill the roles. They had to embody the roles.
Those individual characters.
Embody them.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Alexis early on for Lena and she passed. She was still doing Gilmore Girls.
Okay.
She was tired and she passed. And then we kept looking.
Mm-hmm.
And then we just never found anybody for Bridget. We went through everybody possible. And the key was that what we understood, or I certainly understood early on, is that she was supposed to be 15, 16 years old. So truth of the matter is, most 15, 16-year-old, 17, 18 even, beautiful blonde actresses in Hollywood do not still have innocence. Either they don't still have innocence or they're still at the stage where they're just getting by on their looks and they haven't developed their skills. So it was like one or the other, right? Bridget, the whole point was she was gorgeous, but in a pure way. You had to believe she was a virgin.
Yes.
That she didn't really know. She wasn't caught up in her looks.
Yeah.
And she had to be able to act.
Yeah.
I mean, she had, her mother died.
Yes. Yeah.
That role had a lot of depth. So I remember we literally had seen, it's like Cinderella, right? Look at Cinderella. We had literally seen everybody who was possibly right. And we told the casting director, he's like, you got to go back out there. We haven't found her. You just got to go out there. And I'll never forget, Blake came in. It was me and Ken in the room. She handed us her headshot, and it was completely blank on she had never worked. She'd never gotten a paycheck before.
No.
She's from an acting family. Her dad was on the Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh.
Her dad, Ernie, who sadly we lost Ernie a couple of years, maybe last year, maybe even. Her dad had been an actor and a literature professor at like Spelman or Clark College. Or
who was her dad on Dukes of Hazzard?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember his character, but he had been on Dukes of Hazzard, and then we ended up casting him. He played her father in Sisterhood.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God.
But he was an actor, and then her mom was an acting coach and manager, and all of her siblings were working actors. She was the baby of a family.
Oh, I had no idea.
Everybody was in the business.
No idea.
That's the reason why she had an agent. I think it was Gersh, was because her brother had brought her in and said, "This is my little sister. She kind of wants to act,
No.
And so they kind of had hip pocketed her.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is so funny.
So Ken and I sit down. She reads, and we look at each other like,
oh my God.
like, okay, I think we got this.
Thumbs
right?
up.
Like we might, and we have to stand for a while and we talk and whatever. And we go back to Alcon and we're like, okay, we found her. And they're like, we don't know this girl.
Yeah.
She's not only she never acted before, she's never worked before. She's 15 years old.
Oh my God.
So she's underage.
Yeah.
That's an issue too. And they're like, we got to look at some more people before we like.
But you had been looking for a while.
And spent zero, nobody.
Oh my God.
But so Ken and I were like, this is it.
Yeah.
We're going to the mat for her. And so we brought in, I'm pretty sure we brought in Olivia Wilde, Missy Peregrine, and Blake in the final audition. And, Blake, it was Blake's role.
Oh my God.
And then we went back like one more time to Alexis. Mm-hmm. And she agreed to come in and read. And she was Lena.
Right.
And so she said yes.
First of all, she read for you guys?
Yes.
Okay. So had you been trying to get her to read, or were you making her a straight offer? Like the Gilmore Girls was like a big deal, wasn't it?
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
But we had to have people yeah, I think Amber read too.
Oh, interesting. I guess a transition from TV to movie, it's a big deal. Yeah.
In those days, there was TV, and then there were movies.
Yeah.
So
totally.
So I mean, it was a big deal.
Okay,
so,
got it.
So yeah, she read, and we were like, oh, you're it.
Oh my gosh! So you have your 4.
We have our 4.
And what time of year is this? Like, where are we?
Well, we shot during the summer, so this is spring.
So you didn't need tutors, like you were like shooting summer. Properly.
We shot during the summer.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
When you shoot kids who are still in school, if it's during the school year, you have to pay for a teacher to teach them a certain number of hours every day. So it really cuts into your shooting schedule. Mm-hmm. So if you're shooting with kids, it's better to shoot during the summer because it's just legally they can be out of school. So, okay. So you've already scouted. You're like ready to go. Where do you shoot first?
Santorini.
So you have Alexis first. Just her. Or do you take the whole?
No, we just have Alexis. We just have, for the first movie, we just have Alexis. So the other piece of this, so Ken and I go early for final prep. And we had not, there's always that role in a movie that you can't cast.
Totally. It's like last day and you still haven't cast it.
So Costas.
Uh-huh.
So when we scouted, we had done some preliminary auditions. And we were going to cast locally because,
so you wouldn't have to fly them in.
He's Greek. He's supposed to be Greek.
Yeah, totally. It's supposed to be authentic.
We found this guy. We just fell in love with him. He was beautiful. He was a beautiful actor. And he was, like in high school. I mean, he wasn't like a really professional, but he was interested in acting. In our heads, he was Costas.
Okay.
Beautiful, just beautiful. Looked like a prince.
Greek
like,
guy. Love
tall.
It. Yeah.
Okay. But we were busy with the other roles, with the major roles. And he wasn't going anywhere. He was local. So and we didn't make a deal with him, So we come back in Greece.
Yeah.
To, hard prep. We bring him in again. We love him even more.
Okay.
And then a couple of days later, he calls us and he says, I have been accepted into, I think it was the London Academy of Dramatic Arts.
No.
I would be the first Greek to ever attend. And they won't let you work professionally.
Oh, no. You hadn't even been worried about that role because you were like, we got this guy.
We got the dude.
Yeah.
We got the we hit pay dirt from the beginning.
My God.
Gorgeous. It just looked like a prince. He was like a prince.
Yeah.
So we called the headmaster.
Oh my God.
We had Warner Brothers, like the head of casting.
No way.
Called the headmaster. We were like, look, there's a huge opportunity for this guy.
Yes. How can you
And they're like, that's our
policy.
That's our policy. We were just like devastated.
Totally.
And how when you're in that, we're living it, Ken and I, we're living in Santorini. We're like totally immersed in it. So it's like the end of the world. Right?
Yeah.
It's just like, you're like, oh, the movie's ruined. It's doomed.
Yeah.
Like,
I could see you just getting so depressed.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
And the other thing was this young man spoke beautiful English. Not a lot of the, who had everything else going spoke great English. Yeah. So, to be understood. And so with this, we made a decision, well, we're just going to have to bring somebody in from the U.S.
Yes.
I call it Santorini Idol because it was like, it's before, I mean, you can't even, this is the dark ages, okay? There's no... I mean,
Zoom.
we barely
There's
had...
no computer internet connection.
There was one Wi-Fi hub...
Dial-up.
In the town of Ia. So we would all be in there, like on our computers trying to, and it was sporadic at best. But there was no like sending... People had to be auditioned in the U.S., put on a VHS tape...
No.
VHS. I don't even think it was a
DVD at that point.
DVD. Then it had to be FedEx to us on Santorini. Okay? It's like primitive. So
my God.
This is going on in the backdrop while we're prepping.
Yeah.
Finally, we're like, look, we can't cast the major love interest in the movie without meeting him, reading him with Alexis.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't do this. So they flew 3 guys.
No way.
Okay, this is the old days. And, bless Alcon. Alcon was committed. Like, we're in this. We're going to do it right.
Got to get it right.
Get it right.
Got to get it right.
So,
oh, my God, that's brilliant.
They flew these 3 guys to Santorini. It was so bad because they were there for like a week and none of us wanted to make friends with them.
Right.
Because, it's kind of awkward.
Yeah.
You don't want to become a pal with them and then you send them home.
Yes,
right?
Yes. Oh, my God.
We're trying to be objective about it. but we had to, when, of course, where you have to rework the schedule a few days.
Yeah.
Because we made the decision at the absolute last minute.
Okay. Oh,
but of course, we made the right decision.
Yeah. He was so sweet. He's so cute.
And just a lovely human being.
Oh, loved him.
I cast him in the first episode of The Equalizer.
Oh my God. Did you really?
Yeah. He's got a great guest role.
Oh my God. That's so sweet.
He's a lovely, lovely, lovely man.
Okay. So you got him cast. That's the drama of Santorini.
But then, again, in good Hollywood story fashion, during the year on the soft prep because of the situation, Ken starts directing TV. He'd done a little bit before that.
Okay.
And he directs a pilot for The Office.
Oh my God.
So literally the night before we start shooting Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, Ken Kwapis gets a call that The Office has been picked up the series.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. We were in our little, little
thing. And
who knew?
My God.
Who knew, right?
The most iconic comedy of our era.
Right.
Oh
Yes.
my God. Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. That's so cool.
I'm sorry, I don't speak Greek very well.
We'll have to work on that, won't we?
So Santorini.
Well, we're on Santorini for a month.
Okay.
And it was just the loveliest experience. We're in the town of Ia. Not take over the town, but become a part of it. Our production office is in the center of town. And I would get up every morning and walk down the main street. And as the shop owners were opening up and everybody knew us and they were happy that we were there because we were bringing in money and we were nice. This is fabulous.
And were Denise and Andrew and those guys with you?
Andrew and Broderick were with us.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
For sure. They're very hands-on.
It's on. Okay.
So then we moved to Vancouver.
Okay, that was the second portion. And that's where everyone's together?
Yes. Because that was Bethesda, where they grew up. And then
America's section.
And America's section.
Okay,
South Carolina. Both home. And then when she went to visit the dad.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Bradley Whitford. So we were there for like 2 months.
Did the girls get along very well?
Yes. Oh, no.
Okay.
I mean, it was the most harmonious. Ken, again, is just lovely.
Yeah.
We all felt like we were doing something special.
Yes.
Yes, we were there for 2 months.
Amazing.
Amber, when we were in Vancouver, got an Emmy nomination for Best Actress.
Amazing.
And I think it made her the youngest or the second youngest actress to ever
get a
that.
nomination.
So that, remember, we had a cake and
party
celebration.
Yeah.
But so you had Alexis, Gilmore Girls, big hit, and Amber, Joan of Arcadia, right?
Yeah.
Network TV. And then you had America, this was her first real feature movie. And Blake had never worked before.
Yes. Yeah.
No, had never worked before.
Yes. Yeah. Totally.
I couldn't even do it.
Yeah.
So it was very much, kind of the, relatively speaking, the veterans versus the newbies.
Yes.
But, everybody got on great. And Blake's parents were with us the whole time because she was 15.
She was the youngest.
Yeah, because she was underage.
Okay.
So, and that's why I got to be really good friends with her parents.
Oh,
because they were,
I see.
And they were. I mean, it was just, everybody was great. It was just a lot, you know. And then we went to Cabo.
You finished out in Cabo.
Yeah. Oh, here's the other thing. So Kamloops, British Columbia, who the hell knew, is some kind of environmental anomaly.
Okay.
So it's like desert. So we built the Mexican soccer camp in Kamloops, British Columbia.
Oh.
Yeah. Because it's on the water. It's supposed to be on the water.
Yeah.
That's CGI.
Oh.
But we built the whole soccer camp there.
Okay.
So we're in, I want to curse, but we're in the middle of nowhere, British Columbia. Among the many things I will never forget, we were staying at this motel that was like, I don't know, Bear Lodge.
Sure.
The bathtub was right next to my bed in my room. It was a motel. It was not a spa hotel. It was a motel. And I'll never forget, and Broderick was next door to me. And it was the Democratic convention when Barack Obama spoke for the first time.
No way.
And so we sat there and watched it together. And I had tears, and we were both like, okay, this dude has a future.
He's,
like,
my God.
Right.
Oh, how incredible.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what did you shoot in Cabo?
We shot kind of the exterior
Of
Mexico
the soccer.
stuff.
Okay. And that was just with Blake?
That was just with Blake.
Okay.
We were there a week.
So once you got past the sort of Hillary Duff drama, it like went very beautifully and smoothly,
Yes.
and it was like it was a Cinderella story.
Yeah,
it was your
really
Cinderella
was.
story.
It really,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, and then when you were shooting, did you have the feeling you knew you had a good script? You knew you had found like this sort of great connection of girls. Did you know you'd have something special?
We did.
Yeah,
We did. We
yeah.
had that feeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right away in the edit, were you like, "This is good"?
Listen, you can't. But
Yeah.
those were the days where you sat together and watched dailies.
Yes.
You had to sit in the screening
like
room.
after work, you'd go
Exactly.
and get some food and watch
That's
like all the
right.
stuff you'd shot.
That's right.
Oh my
So
God.
we were,
Yeah.
we knew, and you could tell.
And then when it came out, like, tell me what the reaction was, because you guys did really good business, but I feel like it's like an evergreen.
So the first Princess Diaries movie came out the first weekend in August. And again, at that time, everybody thought that August was a movie dump. That if it didn't
Dead.
work, you
Late summer, no one's going
Right.
anymore. Okay.
But for Princess Diaries, we were like, okay, you got kids still out of school, and so you can still have a run.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked. And so that people started targeting
It was
that
the Princess
weekend
Diaries
for
weekend.
these
Yeah.
the Princess Diaries weekend,
Yeah.
right? So they targeted that weekend, but the difference was, and I'll never forget, and I'm still a young producer, and I'm a woman, and I'll never forget, we were in the big marketing distribution meeting at Warner Brothers, and they're telling us, we're coming out this week, whatever, and I said, but it's the first opening weekend of the Olympics.
Oh.
The head of distribution looked at me like I was an idiot and was like, that doesn't matter. That's not going to impact. I was like, well, girls watch gymnastics and girls watch the opening ceremony and blah, blah, blah. I was dismissed out of hand.
Yep.
So sure enough,
Yeah.
like the second highest ratings of the year after the Super Bowl. Oh, I know what it was, because we opened on like a Wednesday. You know how we used to do that, like split it?
Yes.
And I think we opened on the Wednesday or the Thursday, and we did really well that first day.
Oh, okay.
We did really well.
Like early screenings on Thursday, like selling out. Like,
and
okay.
So,
you felt good.
Like Alcon was calling, like, oh my God.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
we got $100 million movie.
Oh my
blah,
God.
blah, blah, And then it didn't take off what we thought
Yes.
for that weekend, because people were watching the damn Olympics.
Yes.
So we did well. It was solid. They made some money, but it was not Princess Diaries.
But don't you agree that over time it feels like it's grown significantly?
For sure. Absolutely. I rarely meet a woman who has not seen the movie and loves it. And it was on HBO forever and blah, blah, blah. So absolutely. I got like some of the best reviews. That movie's one of the best reviewed things I've ever done. I mean, they were just like love letters. I remember I was in Puerto Rico when for the weekend when the Time review came out, and I was in tears.
Oh my God.
It was like I wrote it myself.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just,
right.
So it was, and anyhow, and I just love the movie.
So how quickly did Warner Brothers or Kevin or Alcon say, like, let's do another one?
No, they didn't.
Not to get into that one, but tell me how that narrative played out then.
So, cut to, because I certainly, there were 4 other books, right?
Right.
And so the thought had always been, this will be a franchise. But, people were like, it wasn't.
It wasn't obvious.
It didn't make
the numbers didn't totally.
It didn't make $100 million, right? But the bottom line was I was pushing hard, to let's do, second movie. I think we actually started the script.
Okay.
But there was no,
enthusiasm.
No traction.
Yeah. Okay.
It was just kind of like.
Yeah.
And then it was, we're not making the movie. We're not, we're not going to make the movie.
Like someone had that hard conversation with you. Like it's not happening.
Yes.
Oh.
And also, cut to America doing Ugly Betty.
Yep.
And she finished the first season of Ugly Betty and she won the Emmy, the Golden Globe, the SAG Award. She was like
the hot
TV
thing.
darling.
Yep.
Blake had gotten Gossip Girl.
Okay.
So we knew it was happening, but it hadn't started yet. Joan of Arcadia was over. Alexis was a question mark whether it was going to be the last season of it was like season 8.
Okay.
Like they called them back for one. It was supposed to end. They called them back for another season.
Okay.
And she was exhausted and, So anyhow, Broderick called me and he said, again, it was like, he said, I'm really sorry. It just doesn't make sense for us. We want to do bigger movies.
Yeah.
We got to, a bigger...
Blindside. We got to make the money.
And we are doing a big financing deal that's going to enable us to make bigger movies. And this just isn't kind of fitting in with where we want to go. So, again, I can see myself in my house in Los Feliz, like depressed.
Sure. Highs and lows.
I've worked so hard.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Put myself a few glasses of wine. Just like, hate this business. It sucks.
Yeah.
Literally the next day, Broderick calls me and he says, we changed our mind.
Just kidding.
He said, we realized that this financing deal that we're making, we have 4 movies in the pot. We need one more.
Oh.
And so we're going to put this one in.
No way.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I'm like, But the other thing is, by this time, we had waited so late. I mean, it was literally beyond the last moment because, these women had TV commitments.
Yes.
So we had the deadline. We had passed the deadline.
Oh, okay.
And then, so by the time they said yes, we were...
You didn't have the option to do it with the girls.
No. It was like the only way to do it was like to have a horrendous schedule. Oh. So we worked 6-day weeks. The whole movie.
Oh my God.
We worked and it was a real like scheduling, nightmare really. But we had to get each girl out, for their commitments when they needed to.
And I didn't even really mean to get you into the second one, but that being said, the movies have had such impact, particularly on women of all ages. Mm-hmm. And I asked you this the first time around. The books were obviously so successful. That's part of it. But why do you think the movie is such a warm blanket for so many women? Is it because of the friendship? Is it because of the bond that these women have that can't be broken? Like, what is it that you think resonates?
I think it's 2 things. I think it's the sisterhood. I feel incredibly lucky in my life that I have a lot of really, really close girlfriends. Mm-hmm. I treasure them and I treasure our sisterhood.
Yep.
But, that's what that is. And it's so valuable and it's so lovely. And if you have it, you see it and you love that. And if you don't have it, you want it, right?
Yes.
I also think, and this goes back to Ann Brashares, the issues that each of the girl was dealing with are universal. Whether you are old or young or male or female, the death of a parent, the divorce of parents, just somebody not feeling comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah. Yep.
And then, Tibby's story with this incredible, her friendship with Bailey.
Yes.
And that whole journey, understanding, again, death.
Yep.
I just think there was something for everybody to relate to. And it was beautiful. It was beautifully shot. And the fantasy of, I'm in Santorini.
Right.
I meet this beautiful man.
Yes.
I fall madly in love.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. I'm letting go of my inhibitions.
Right.
I'm growing.
I mean, you have a strength in you that your mom never had. As much as she wanted to, she couldn't find it.
You have something else, Dad.
What?
You have us.
To us, who we were and who we are, and who we'll be.
To the pants and the sisterhood.
And this moment, and the rest of our lives.
Together and apart.
I love you so much. I feel like each film you do is infused with your heart and intelligence and goodness. And I want to cry. I can't even look at you, but I'm so proud to be your friend and your sister. And I hope we work together forever and ever. And
We will. Well, that's a given. Well, I have one more thing to say.
Okay. Okay.
So it seems like nothing now, but I was really intent, particularly at that point in my career, always looking for opportunities to do diverse casting that was unexpected. So in that movie, Brian McBrien, I cast Leo Nam.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was written without ethnicity, so the assumption was he was white.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, why did he be white? You know,
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'd seen, so I wanted somebody different. I didn't know who it was, and I saw Leo. It was his movie debut, and he popped. I'm like, that's a star, right? He just popped. And so we brought him in to audition, and we cast him.
I love that.
And I'm still good friends with him. Launched his career. You know, he's such a lovely man. And I'll never forget, there's a moment where Tibby comes to look for Bailey, and there's an older couple next door on the porch.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, that girl, she had to go back to the hospital. And that's when she realizes. And I cast a black man and a white woman. And it was just kind of a throw, you know, but to me, those are the things where you get people used to seeing stuff.
100%.
Because at that point, it was still like, oh, you're going to do interracial couple? Oh, my God.
Yep.
It's like a big, you got to talk to the studio kind of thing. And we just let's laid it in there.
No,
and,
it's so funny you say that because I was watching it. I was literally watching it this morning, and I noticed little things like that because it wasn't topical when you were casting in 2004.
Right.
That wasn't the mandate. And you were just doing it. And I was just like, this is all Deb. Like, I was aware of it. And so again, you are such an inspiration to me. You are so good at your job. Deb, can you tell us, is there a Sisterhood 3? Has anyone ever spoken of that? Is that something you've ever thought about?
I would love to do a third Sisterhood movie. I'm doing sequels to some of my other classic movies right
we've
now.
read about. We're so proud.
I think, you know, time has gone by and the audience is still very much wanting, but so I don't know, maybe.
We'll see. You heard it here first. All right. Love you so much, Deb.
Love you too.
Oh, Debra Martin Chase, just the best. I mean, if we could make every movie with her, we would, right? We'd
be so lucky.
She's so funny. She's so smart. She's no bullshit. She gets it done. And this was just another example of navigating the highs and lows and getting a film made.
And I have to say, I'm very grateful for Debra for producing two of the movies that kind of defined my middle school years, Princess Diaries and this one. Really helped an awkward 13-year-old girl feel like life was going to be okay. So I appreciate that.
I watched the movie again, and it's just like one of those comfort watches. You know, it's like a young Blake Lively, America Ferrera, Rory from Gilmore Girls. It's just like all the girls that you loved back in the day. and them being best friends was just incredible. I have to say though, like as a producing effort, it felt like it was a movie that almost wasn't. Deb was like about to produce 3 movies, have her year set, and then she was producing no movies. I mean, that is the life of an independent producer.
And to Deb's credit, she shifted and figured it out. And I think the craziest story from this podcast to me was learning about how they found Blake Lively, and the fact that she was this young 15-year-old girl who not only had never acted before, but had literally never had a job before. And she was just part of this kind of LA Hollywood family. And they found her, and she was this amazing talent and perfect for the role. And when she said that on the podcast, because I had just rewatched the movie, because any excuse to rewatch this movie
Sure.
is
That's
one
the
that
beauty
I
of our
will jump
pod.
on.
We can just like watch movies for homework.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's wonderful. I'm like, I am working. What are you talking about? This
I'm like,
is
Ted,
work.
I need 2 hours alone. I need to watch The Devil Wears Prada and take notes. Actually, I've seen it 14 times. I don't need to watch it again. But keep going. Yeah. Blake
seems so mature in that movie. I honestly thought she was like 18, just playing 15, like so often happens. But she was incredible.
No,
The
it's
depth
so
that she
true.
had.
I thought she came off as like so completely just professional and talented and experienced. And, you know, there's clearly a reason why Blake Lively is where she is today, you know, and they saw it. They saw it from the get-go. I had one story like that, actually. We made a movie called Winning Season. No one really remembers that film, but it was a girls' basketball movie with Emma Roberts in the lead, and we could not find the third lead. It was like we couldn't find her. We were doing all this casting, and then all of a sudden, this young girl named Rooney Mara walked into the casting office, and literally it was electric. It was just like, oh, that's the girl. Not necessarily because that was the girl, but you just knew this was a star. Like she like walked in, and I remember the director being like, did you see Rooney Mara's tape? And I was like, no. And she's like, well, I already cast her, so I hope you like her. And it was like one of those things where it was like, I gave Rooney Mara one of her first gigs, and then she just shot straight up to the top and was cast in like, you know, that dragon tattoo movie like 3 years later. Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. But once in a while that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a cliche, but it's like there are certain people who just have it. And when you find them, you gotta snatch them up before the world does.
That's right. It was like Bruce Cohen's story of being the first AD on a film called Satisfaction, which was Julia Roberts' first film. Mm-hmm. It was like as soon as she walked on set, he was like, oh my God, this one's going places, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that does happen. That happens once in a while. But that's clear that's what happened with Blake and Debra. So anyways, guys, that was a great one. We love Debra Martin Chase so much. We're actually endeavoring to get into some new businesses. We're starting to get into theater, and we've come on to be a very small part of The Outsiders, which is a new musical coming out very, very soon. So let's knock on wood on that. That's a success. And maybe Broadway will be like the next turn for Stay Gold, but that was so great. She's just the best. Yeah, Bex, you're a particular Broadway lover.
I am. I'd love it if that becomes a big part of her business.
Let's hope we don't lose our money. All right. Well, guys, we love you so much. Thank you for listening. We're having so much fun. We're just growing and growing. Don't forget to press follow, you know, like and subscribe, all that stuff. And we'll catch you next time.
And stay gold.
Stay gold.